I want to apologize to our YouTube audience for not showing up last week. I turned the video on. I was very blurry, and I don't know what happened, but the thing just never cleared up. But I thought about what Jay Leno said about Hubble when it was blurred. I was just fine. It's the rest of the universe that was all out of focus. So it does feel that way sometimes. But hopefully it'll work this time. It's I don't know if it was a camera problem or what it was, but that's that. So hopefully we'll get the video on this time. So we're looking at recovering your wholeness, recover your wholeness. This is a theme I've talked about several times before, and what I want to do too in coming up here is just focus on the different aspects of the teachings of Jesus that I think that I would brand as his authentic teachings, and I've tried to make the distinction between what he actually taught and what the church added on top of that. And what we find is that there are some very basic sayings, what I would call the mystical thread. And by mystical, we're not talking about mysterious, we're talking about that experience of God. You know, we're after that experience of oneness, that awareness of oneness. That's what all mystics advocate, and that's what I think Jesus did. He was a spiritual teacher who had discovered that interconnection, and he wanted to share it. And what happened is he stepped into an era, a time when everyone was looking for a Messiah, And there were certain things that he would have to do to convince them that he was the Messiah. Well, I don't think he ever tried to convince anybody that he was that person, that he was playing that role or in that role. That was what they were hoping. He stepped into this pre-laid template, this messianic hope. And so he was apparently an extraordinary individual who had a tremendous spiritual consciousness, probably a phenomenal healer. Although if you really read between the lines, when it says things like he couldn't do a lot of great works because people knew him, he grew up in this area, so he couldn't do great works where he grew up. And that's where they had him say, a prophet is not without honor except in his own country. Well, do you think if God showed up as a man, do you think that there would be places he could do good work and places where he couldn't? I don't think so. I think what that whole thing is saying is Jesus was a human being who discovered his own spiritual capacity and was trying to teach other people that they had the same level of experience or the same level of being. Our Father, not my Father, our Father. And of course the writers have him say my Father, and they have him say things, or they indicate that he was the only begotten and this and that. And it's so we're making a distinction between what the writers, how they're portraying him, how they're using the voice of Jesus, and who Jesus actually was. And that goes against all mainstream teachings, I know that, which is why I'm not in it. I don't owe any allegiance to mainstream Christianity. And I don't even necessarily like to think that we're presenting an alternative Christian message. What we're doing is we're looking for the actual teachings of Jesus. If he was not this expected Messiah, and if you look up, if you do any research on who the Jews were expecting to show up, it's no wonder Jesus didn't fit that. And it's no wonder they said, he's dead, but he's going to come back. And then he's going to do all the stuff that we're expecting him to do. I don't think he saw himself in that role at all. And I think if he could see what we're calling him today, how we're using him today, I think he would say, I have to start all over here. Let's just back up a little bit and take another look. Because you're doing the same thing the Jews did, you're doing the same thing everybody else has done. You're idolizing something that's not where we're to look. We're to look to our Father. Go in your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who's in secret. That's the mystic's message. And your Father who sees in secret rewards you openly. Your life begins to express that which you find within yourself. So I think the message that he taught is what I would like to share today, recover your wholeness. I think that's his bottom line, is he was telling people that what you're looking for is already here. It's not coming through observation. It's coming, it's an awakening. You've got to be born again. You've got to reinvent yourself, not so much in the sense of come up with a new self-image, but drop the self-image and get your mind open to what is real at the core of your being. That's the new birth. That's the new heaven and the new earth. But the writers, I do not believe, got that. I do not believe they wanted to get that. They wanted to keep this thing going, that he's coming back, so let's all be good, follow our rules, and you'll be saved. There's a lot of control involved in that message. Do what the church tells you you're supposed to do, so you'll be saved. That's a very powerful message. But it's a controlling message. And I don't think Jesus, that's one that he gave. The prodigal son parable did not include that type of rhetoric at all. Prodigal went out and just blew it all. Came back and he was accepted. He was not saved because he was never condemned. The Father never forgave him because he never condemned him. He was just happy he was alive. That's the message. So to recover your wholeness. Okay, so he gives a parable here, and there's a couple that go along with this parable here, but I have liked this one in the context I want to share it in. What woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently until she finds it? And I'm not sure why he's saying what woman, because I know a lot of men, including myself, that would do the same thing. If you've got something of value that you've lost and you know you've got it, you do whatever it takes to get it back. So what does this mean? Who hasn't used an item, laid it down, and then forgotten where you put it? You know that it can't just vanish into thin air, so you search with the full knowledge that it's there someplace and you'll find it. Have you ever done that? You have something and like this. I knew I had it, so I searched. I just did what I'm talking about here. Stop the show. I'm going to go find my remote. It's so it's not a question of did I bring it? Do I have it here or not? I knew I had it because I can see the little antenna that I stuck back there this morning. I don't do that until the service starts because it'll run the battery down. So there's a difference in when you do that, and you've all done this, right? I mean, I'm not the only one that has done that. I tell you all the time, if I'm working out in my shop doing something with a pencil, and you lay the pencil down, you just had it. Then you discover it's behind your ear or whatever, it's just, you're just glad nobody else is there to see it. But you had it, that it doesn't just vanish, although you may start believing that sometimes. Maybe it fell into a black hole. Maybe something weird happened. Maybe there's some spooks around here or something that took it. But when you have it and you can't find it, that's one mindset. The other mindset is this, and I had this happen just last week, I think. Now think of an item that you may not have used for some time, maybe an old kitchen utensil, but you need it now. You can't remember if you still have it because you might have sold it in your last yard sale. With this looming uncertainty, your commitment to finding it is not so strong. So I've been baking bread lately, and I have a really good blackstrap molasses recipe. But I was wanting I have a Dutch oven. I do it in a Dutch oven. And I have I thought we had a cast iron skillet I wanted to use for something else. We did have one. We had one at one time, but then started thinking, did we sell that in a yard sale? So you look around in the pantry, you look around a couple places where it might be, but not with any great commitment because there's a very good chance that we sold it, and I think we did. Or I don't know if we sold it or she threw it at me or something. I don't know where it is, but it's not around in a place where it normally is. But so you see the difference in the two levels of commitment. One, you are sure that you have it, but you don't know where it is. And the other is, I'm not sure I have it. I'm not sure it's here. So I'll look around a little bit and, move a few papers or pans or whatever and see if I can find it. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same commitment. So if you read our spiritual literature, a lot of our spiritual literature, it assumes that we are undeveloped. And this is one of my themes, that our soul is in an evolving state and may even require additional lifetimes to reach a desired level of enlightenment. If the woman applied this logic to her lost coin, she probably would not have found it. And you see, that's probably why many people are not experiencing the level of their soul that they possibly could. That's why the mystic seems like something different from all of us. That's why we put Jesus in a different category. Because I'm just not there yet. I'm not evolved yet. But this woman knows she has 10 coins, but she's misplaced one. Her relentless quest to recover it brings success. So I am advocating that we give our own spiritual development that same treatment. That I have it. It's actually here. I am complete. My spiritual self is whole right now. It's not something I'm developing. And as I have pointed out, I was trained in unity to think of the soul as being in a state of evolution. And that's where I have broken away from the teachings of Charles Fillmore. What he said was that when you die and you are born again, he believed in reincarnation, and I believe in reincarnation as well. But when you die and you are born again, you pick up where you left off. That's an evolution. So whatever you learned in this lifetime, you die, and he said in the experience of death, there's nothing there. It's just a blank space, which he was wrong about that, because we have all the near-death research that people counter that whole notion that you just blank out. But then you wake up again in another body, and you pick up where your soul left off. Well, if you look around, there's nobody that I know that is even close to ascending, that is close to coming to the end of their spiritual development in terms of, do you think you're there? Are you a Jesus? Can you walk on water? Can you heal the sick, raise the dead, and all the things that we're supposed to do if we're completely enlightened beings? And I don't see too many people, including Charles Fillmore, because he said death is failure. Death and disease are signs of spiritual failure, and I do not agree with that. I agreed with it for 30 years probably, but I started thinking about it, and I changed my mind. He said, I reserve the right to change my mind, and I do too. And he may, if I could sit down and talk with him, he might have a different discussion. I was born almost exactly 100 years after he was, which I've always thought was interesting. I don't think I'm him, I'm not saying that at all. But and maybe I did pick up where he left. I don't know, but I don't think so. But my reasoning is based on how I see God and how I see anything that is an expression of God. If we are expressions of God, if the soul, the spiritual essence in us is an expression of God, how could that be in a state of evolution? How could it not be perfect? How could it not be complete? My understanding of it is not complete. I have not fully embraced what I am as a spiritual being, but can I? Is that coin still in my house someplace? And if I say, yes, I am whole, and if I have not experienced that wholeness, it doesn't mean I can't. It doesn't mean I'm not evolved enough to get it. It simply means I haven't looked in the right place yet. I haven't swept out the house well enough. And one of the things that we need to sweep out is this belief that we're evolving. The spiritual level is evolving. The physical side evolves. Evolution is a fact. We're not denying that. But what is physical evolution? It is adapting to the present environment. That's what it is. It's not the soul adapting, it's the body adapting to the present environment. So if you think about it from that point of view, the goal of evolution is accomplished all the time. If the environment changes, there will be things that can keep up with that and things that don't. But evolution is about the things that do keep up with the changes. But the soul has nothing to do with environment. The soul is just fine. No matter happens in the environment. That's the distinction we have to make. So I stopped saying to myself, I'm not complete yet because I'm not feeling a deep spiritual awareness. Because I'm not quite sure if the soul is complete or not complete. It's evolving. Nobody around me seems to be achieving that level of enlightenment, so I guess we're all evolving. So I have bought into something I need to sweep out of my house, an idea I need to sweep out of my house. If we think of the soul as fully developed and we have simply lost sight of this truth, we'll approach our spiritual quest with much higher expectation. To affirm that we are expressions of God, yet assume we are spiritually undeveloped, is a contradiction. We're not evolving to an ideal spiritual state. The soul is that ideal state. Evolution applies to the process of adapting to environmental and factual changes. The spiritual realm exists in a perpetual state of wholeness. So that's not that difficult to grasp when you think about it. Why do I think I'm not complete? I have bought in to a narrative. If somebody said, who do you think you are? Jesus. What they would be saying is, you think you can walk on water? You think you can heal the sick and raise the dead? They're asking me a question that was invented by the gospel writers. If somebody said, do you think you are equal to what Jesus was as a real historical person? I would say, yes, we all are. And I think he said that. The things I do, you can do also, and greater things. Why would he say that? But no, I cannot live up to that gospel concept of this larger-than-life figure that Jesus is being portrayed as. Nobody can. That's why they said he's the only begotten. Nobody can do what he did. He's different. And if you want to actually read, if you want to understand what is the gospel message, read the Nicene Creed or the Apostles' Creed. They're very similar. And you'll see the gospel's summary. That's it. So if you say, can we take the gospels literally? You say yes, as long as you understand what it is. It's a portrayal of Jesus as the church defined him. It's not the portrayal of the teachings of Jesus. That's a huge difference. It's a portrayal of Jesus as the church portrayed him. So just Google the Apostles' Creed. That's good enough. And you'll see a summary of the Gospels. And you ask yourself, do I believe all this? Do I go along with this? Why do I find resistance in myself when it makes these statements, that you have to confess, that you have to affirm that you believe? Because I don't believe any of them. I believe the first one about there's one God, kind of thing. But I don't think we're on the same page when we're talking about the nature of that one God. It's portrayed as God as this old guy up in the sky running the universe. And that just doesn't work in my book anymore. So let's just think for a moment, and this is an illustration. It's not a great illustration because I don't know what kind. I think that right bulb, the one I have marked 100 watt, is a LED. Maybe they both are, but that's not the point. We're going to pretend like the left one is a 60 watt and the right one's 100 watt. So if you think of the electricity as the soul of the light bulb, because it is, without the electricity, the light bulb is nothing. That's Jesus, the light bulb saying, I myself can do nothing. It's the Father in me that does the works. It's that energy, that electricity. That's what's doing the work. I'm the avenue through which it's expressing. But when you talk about a 60 watt and a 100 watt bulb, does the electricity need to evolve? Does it need to do something more than it's doing, or is the bulb limiting what the electricity is doing? See, that's how we have to think of the soul. You think of your soul as the expression of God. That's the electricity. Your electricity, my electricity, it's all the same. There's one presence, one power, expressing through many light bulbs. So some people are more aware of that presence than others. But what is available to each one of us is exactly the same. That's the soul level. That's the spiritual level. That does not need to evolve. My understanding of that needs to evolve. How I see that needs to evolve. But if I'm a 60-watt bulb and I wonder where all the light is, it's my consciousness that's limiting it. If I'm the woman that says, I don't know if I had that coin or not, so I'm not going to look so hard. I'll give it a half-hearted attempt. That's the 60-watt bulb. But the electricity itself in both bulbs is identical. There's no evolution required, no soul evolution necessary. The soul of each light bulb is identical. And there's always limits to every illustration, but if we say there's one presence, one power, does that not mean that one presence and one power is our life, our source of our being, the source of the being of a man like Jesus, the source of every living thing? Does that one presence and one power need to evolve, need to improve? So my logic says no, it doesn't. It's complete already. There's something in me that I'm looking for, but I haven't found it yet. I feel like I'm not whole, but I've got to stop saying that. I am whole. Wholeness is my nature. Hallowed be thy name means wholeness is thy nature. It's a shift in the mindset that we have. When you sit down to pray, believe that you've received what you're asking for. That's what Jesus said. And why would he say that? If the thing that you're looking for is not already present, and by present I mean in electricity. It's present, it's whole, it's complete. So what I need to do is turn up my bulb a little bit. That's really what prayer is, to make an adjustment to what is true of the electricity. It's not trying to make God behave in ways that are different from what God's doing. It's not trying to make the electricity do something different. It's opened myself to more wattage. And that's exactly what the word prayer means, to make an adjustment. So it's a very interesting thing. It's a mindset, and I'm not saying that we're going to all walk out of here just knowing that we're complete. But entertain that thought. The wholeness that I seek is already here. You say there are 4 months. You say there are 4 lifetimes until you're going to be enlightened. But the master teacher said, lift up your eyes and see the fields are ready for harvest now. I think he always talked about a present awareness. The gospel writers were futuristic. They had Jesus prophesying. He was not a prophet, he was a mystic. They were prophesying because he did not fulfill their expectations. But he's going to come back and do it. It's a cop-out. They did not get who he was. And I think if they had gotten who he was, I think John came the closest to getting who he was, but it's not a message that the people wanted to hear. They wanted this Messiah to show up and solve their problems. Somebody else. You show up and you do it for me. And he was saying, we don't have to wait for somebody. What you're looking for is you. It's within you. It's your spiritual essence. It's here. It's not 3 months from now. It's not 3 lifetimes from now. It's here now. Nothing has to evolve except the way you think? Are you sweeping out your house because you know that you're whole? Or are you kind of wondering if you're ready for the next step yet? Are you looking at this spiritual journey like a road and you've come a certain distance, but you've got a heck of a long way to go? That's how I was trained to think of it. But it's not a journey in that sense. It's a journey of waking up in exactly the same way as suddenly knowing where your clicker is. It's like I didn't have to evolve anything to make that true. All I had to do was make the connection. And that's what we want to do. So watch how you're talking to yourself. Watch how you're treating yourself. To recover is to regain possession of something. To recover is to regain. Regain, to gain once again that which you've already had, that which you already have. You've forgotten the woman with the coin was regaining something she already owned, something she already had. The woman recovered the coin she already owned. You and I are recovering conscious possession of our spiritual wholeness. We're not developing our spirituality. Another important concept that we've got to sweep out of the house. You're not developing this. You don't know how. I don't know how. I do know how to discover it. I do know how to tap into it. I do know how to experience it. And when I do experience it, it's not something I've constructed. It is a level of experience that I didn't make up. I didn't get it out of a book. It is an actual knowing my oneness with the infinite. So we're not developing our spirituality. We're not having to earn it. You've already got it. We're opening our mind and heart to the truth of our spiritual wholeness. The thing we seek is already ours. So this is kind of just watch what you're telling yourself. Watch how you think about yourself when you're looking at your spiritual journey. And I'm getting where I don't even like to call it that, although it's a convenient term. The spiritual awakening. But even that, the spiritual awakening, because Paul said and demonstrated that awakening can happen in the twinkling of an eye. It did happen to Paul on the road to Damascus, unexpectedly. His mind opened. And something in him changed, became receptive enough to allow that to happen. So just think of the difference between, do I own it and I've just misplaced it, or am I evolving? Ask yourself that question. How am I approaching this whole spiritual thing? And it'll make a big difference. If you act as if the thing you asked for in prayer you've already received, it will more likely, that light will break through those clouds of not knowing. All right? Thanks for coming out. Don't breathe too much. No, take good deep breaths and just enjoy this time. It's weird. It's a weird time. We'll look back on it and we'll say, yeah, I was there.
You've been watching a talk presented by Reverend Doug Bottorff at Independent Unity here in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado. We would like to thank everyone who joined us here today, as well as those of you who joined us online. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to share it with those you think who might benefit from this message. If this brought value to your life, please consider donating to us on PayPal. Thanks again for watching.